Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is the Our Turf Football Podcast. I am Dayna. Here with me is Kate. We decided when we decided to do the AFC North, we knew that there would be certain conversations that we would need to have, but we didn't want to eat up the divisional show with that conversation. I mean, we have hinted at it on and off all year long, ever since this happened, the way we feel about it. But we really wanted to make something official while talking about the AFC North. So Kate and I, if you guys don't know, it's Cleveland Kate. She's been a Browns fan her entire life. So therefore, Kate and I decided to just take a few minutes. And we are just going to take just a few minutes to kind of talk about this situation, talk about where our heads are at, so that there is absolutely no question when we do our regular show here in 15 minutes, when we talk about the AFC North and we keep it just to football. That whole podcast is going to be just about football. Kate and I are going to talk about the division, where they stand, situational issues with every single team. So we wanted to do this one a little separate. Kate, thank you so much for joining me a little early than we normally do.
Yeah, for sure.
It'll be good. All right. So we obviously we want to talk about this. And it was perfect timing today. Thank you so very much, Mr. Watson. So we are here to talk about the Deshaun Watson off the field issues. We wanted to talk about how they made us as NFL fans feel, our thoughts on it. And then I really want to dive in with Kate about how people feel in Cleveland, because truly that is going to be the fan base that is the most impacted for obvious reasons. So, Kate, first I want you to give everyone a little bit of background about why, how you became a Browns fan, how long you've been a Browns fan, how entrenched you are in that.
We moved to Cleveland in 1974, end of 74. So in 1975, for my 9th birthday, and y'all can do math if you want, my dad gave me a Browns football. And my parents are both from Pittsburgh. My dad is a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan. My mom's cousin played for the Miami Dolphins, number 77. Doug Cruzan played for them during the undefeated season. So I had Dolphin pajamas and Steeler, like I thought that's what we were. And then my dad's like, no.
Lisa will love that, by the way. Lisa will love
that. We're going to be Cleveland fans now. This is where your mom and I were raised there. You're going to be raised in Cleveland. This is your team now. And so I spent my teen years rebelling and fighting with my dad on Sundays over football, and especially when the Browns played the Steelers. And we were better in the 70s and 80s than we have been since then. So that the balance has shifted. My dad has since passed away, but I still feel like on Sundays that I have his Pittsburgh Steelers tie in my room that I dig out on game days and whip it around when we lose. But I mean, he gave me an appreciation for football, old school football. The guys that played in leather helmets, the guys that played in the 50s, 60s, 70s that are rolling over some of the contracts they're seeing now and the behavior and that kind of stuff. When I covered the Hall of Fame, my favorite guys are the senior candidates that get in, the guys that just nobody knows about, that really don't understand the history of the game. And then just the X's and O's of the game. I love the plays. I love watching them. I love sitting high up in the bleachers or in the press box and being able to see what's going on in the strategy and stuff. And so that's part of why for tonight, it was important to me to keep our AFC North off-season show about the football. Let's talk about the football, the X's and O's, and talk about that. And then let's talk about Deshaun Watson and the character issues and the legal issues and the accusations and the fans' reaction, because this is a huge thing. We've done similar things in the past with Ray Rice, and we talked about Kareem Hunt when he had his issues when he came to Cleveland.
God, we have been around that.
And
long.
I think
so people know, we literally talked about Ray Rice when it happened.
We did. We have a lot of opinion, and just as women and as football fans, we have a lot of opinions on those things. But I also think that we try to be responsible and separate those from the football. And then we talk about how it affects the football. And this is one of those situations where it seriously affects the football. Deshaun has been
I was just
accused of.
We debated this. We weren't sure. And the reason is for two reasons. First of all, we are opinionated women. We have our thoughts and we don't care if you like them or not, right? But the thing of it is too, is I also did not want to take the space away from the people who should be telling this story, which is the
Yes.
victims. They should be. And I didn't want us to have to yell over the top of other people. This isn't a debate. This is not something we are going to have a back and forth about. We are putting it out there. We're leaving it be, and we're moving on the best we can, because this is not something you can just move away from easily, especially as women as entrenched in football as we are. But at the same time, I think that it's important that we get the thoughts out there. Now, I don't think anyone has any question what my thoughts are. I'm rather vocal about all this. I don't think you should play football again, but that's a whole different thing. I want to focus more on Cleveland. I got a message today from a Cleveland fan. She's been a longtime fan of the show. She's been around forever. Love her to death. I did not ask her permission if I could say this online, so I'm not going to give you her name. But she told me that this was the straw that broke the camel's back for her, and she's a Browns fan. She's done. She's over it. I know you're on sports radio in Cleveland, Kate. I know that you hear a lot of the Cleveland fans. Are you getting two polar opposite reactions in Cleveland, or are people pretty much still struggling with the decision that the front office made?
It's two polar opposite decisions. There are quite a few people in the camp of I'm done. This is it. As women, as NFL fans, we have felt unheard and unappreciated for years. This is nothing new for us. NFL, not for ladies, right? We can go back to and just list all the examples. The purse policy in and of itself is offensive to me. Half the stuff I put in my purse is the stuff my husband hands me because it won't fit in his pocket. I mean, we've always felt like second-class citizens as a fan of the NFL. Women just don't feel like, and then they do Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October to try to make it up to it. And I understand that a lot of money is raised for good causes. I also feel like it's a little patronizing. Like, we're aware, that kind of thing. So it's that there are some men who've spoken out that they're not okay with this behavior. But the largest voices on social media are men, and he didn't do it. He said he didn't do it. She can't prove he did it. She probably agreed and said then later changed her mind. Like, all of that victim blaming and victim shaming that we have seen for too long. And I tried in the early days to explain what a perceived position of power is, how as a woman, and I even know some men who felt this, that you can be in a situation with someone who is in a perceived position of power over you. It may be your boss. It may be your boss's boss. It may be an NFL quarterback who comes into your place of business and says or does things that you normally wouldn't put up with, but suddenly you feel like you don't have power, that you can't say no the way you normally would. The bravest, boldest women I know can still feel intimidated by someone like that. And if you've never experienced it, if you don't know what it's like, that's a very difficult thing to explain to people. So I just went out with what my response to all of them just became 22. And we're now at 24, and there may be two more. And I explained it this way. I have 4 daughters. And so for Mother's Day a few years ago, we decided we were all 5 going to get matching tattoos. For 6 weeks, we argued, trying to agree on one design. And y'all are telling me that 22 and now 24, 26 women all came up with the same story. That's 66 different therapists that he saw in a 17-month period were asked to sign NDA agreements by the Texans. That's not normal. That's just not normal. And it's not, today's revelation was that he was settling 20 of the cases. They will receive a settlement and they will no longer be able to pursue any action against him. They're still in negotiations, I guess, with the other 4. And that makes a lot of sense for him. You get to a point where even your attorneys are saying, listen, this is going to be a long, drawn-out battle. It is. He said it's going to cost you more than this to pay the attorneys. Right. Let's just pay them. And you've got the NFL hanging over your head. At what point is the NFL going to come in and levy a suspension on him? Because they're going to do something, right? Ben Roethlisberger and Ezekiel Elliott both got suspensions after 1 or 2 people came forward and there were no criminal charges. They were still suspended 6 weeks. So the NFL is going to do something. The sooner you settle this and get it done, the sooner the NFL can come in and levy their punishment. And then you can say, listen, double jeopardy now attaches. If someone else comes out of the woodwork later, he can make that part of his deal. Where if someone else comes out later, you can't get me in trouble. I need to figure out what this is now. And to be fair to the Browns, the sooner we find out what that NFL punishment is, the better, because Jacoby Brissett needs to get some reps. Baker Mayfield is still not speaking to the team. And so
Right.
as fans, we're stuck with how many weeks is Jacoby Brissett going to start for us? Makes the schedule game hard to play.
Right.
And it frustrates me when I realize the price that we are willing to pay to win. Because we all survived 1-31. It wasn't that long ago. It was 5 and 6 years ago. I'm not talking about my dad's generation of Browns fans.
Yeah.
Me and my children survived 1-31. And it makes me sad just how many fans are willing to completely say, listen, I don't care what he did. I want him on the field. I want Clemson Watson on the field. I want to, if I win a Super Bowl, it doesn't matter. To me, it still matters.
It still matters. And I think it matters. And what the interesting thing is this, the front office. And honestly, we have 4 minutes left, and then we're going to go to our we're going to shut this one down and start up a new podcast, just so they're two separate things. But here's the thing. It comes down to the NFL, doesn't it? Because you said it, Kate. You said that, they were trying all these things to bring the female fans in, to make them feel more included, and including, ladies' night at the stadium, which was a complete disaster for many teams, and it was poorly executed. But they're hiring more women. There's more women coaches there. I get it. They're trying. This was the last freaking thing the NFL wanted. They did not want this to come in and have to play this game with him again. But here's the thing that I think is most important that you said, and I think that we all need to realize, is that whether or not you think these women were traumatized or whatever it is, this is about power. Deshaun Watson can go get laid anywhere he wants to. He can just go out and find it. It has nothing to do with it. It's all about power. And that could be a continuing problem, because people who like power and who do things like that have a tendency to continue. And that's something that the Browns have to think about. Even if he is on the straight and narrow forever, that it's rare that happens. So
it is. But we as a fan base need to think about, because in a way, we have created this monster. We start telling boys at 12, 13, 14, as soon as we figure out that they can dribble a basketball or throw a football, hit a baseball, that no is no longer an option. It's yes, 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 whatever you need to do, and we'll grease the wheels, and you don't have to get good grades. We'll move you through school. And we have raised them to be in their 20s to not believe that the word no is a thing for them, and you don't really mean it, and they're not told
doesn't exist for them. That the laws don't exist. The reality doesn't exist. And we're not saying all players. There's some amazing players out there, you guys. Most of them, most NFL players are amazing men.
Yes, agreed. But if we don't get back to the root of this, we're going to have more and more predators in major league sports who are in positions of power, who have the ability to abuse women or men or children or whatever it is, because they're going to continue to have that power. Because when I look at Deshaun and he says he didn't do anything wrong, and I look in his eyes, I think he believes that, which is the scariest part of all of this to me, is he does not understand the concept of informed and enthusiastic consent. And these women might have said yes in the moment because they were scared or intimidated, but they did not enthusiastically and informingly consent to what happened to them. And a lot of people do not get that concept. And that is going to continue to be a problem throughout all major league sports. But now, especially the Browns have to keep an eye on, do we have to have massage therapists on staff? Do we have to have cameras in the therapy rooms now? I mean, they just promoted a woman to assistant general manager. What is her title? Catherine Raish, assistant GM and VP of football operations. So I don't know if that was to appease the female fan base, or if that was to have someone internally who can now start keeping an eye on things and monitor things and
so Kate,
maybe fix things.
Kate, so we have 1 minute left. So I want to know, what do you think the suspension ends up being? What do you think the NFL will do? I will tell you that my true hope is that they suspend him for 2 years and let him appeal it, probably full well knowing that he'll appeal it, and they cut it down to 1. He should not be on a field this year. And I'm not saying cut it back to 10 or 12 games so then he can play for the playoffs. Screw that. He needs to not play this year. And then that's my hope. I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't either, especially with the games they played in Houston last year of not putting him on the field so that he would get suspended and be done with it. I think they give him a year, he appeals it, and I think they knock it back to 8. And I think it's going to come into play is what they did with Robert Kraft and Jerry Jones and some of these other owners who received no punishment for very, very, very similar behaviors. And the Players Association is going to use that to defend him. Not that he's right, but that if you're not going to punish the owners the same way you're punishing the players, then you can't do that. And so that's why I think it's going to get cut back. But I think they're going to give him the year. So at least the Browns can go into the season trying. Worst case scenario is a year. They can at least see what they can do from there.
Right.
But I think it's a year. I think it should be 3 cut back to 1. But I bet that I'm going. They're going to give him a year and then reduce it.
They've surprised us in the past and come down harder than we thought they were going to. So that's kind of what we can hope for. And honest to God, I will tell you, you ask most of the women in NFL, that's what they're hoping for. There needs to be a precedent set. All right, everyone, we are going to go. We're going to cut this live off. We're going to turn around and be back within 30 seconds on a new feed that will be live on Twitter and on YouTube. This one was solely on YouTube. And so we'll be back to talk about the AFC North and what the Browns might need to do at quarterback. I read something very interesting today that I can't wait to share you. All right, everyone, we'll see you in just a few minutes on the AFC North podcast. Hold on.